RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Rational Investor. This is Julian reporting in from Bangkok, where I take over for Brian on Thursdays, and I talk about things that you may not or you may want to hear. Most of the time, probably you don't care, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Hopefully you guys are doing well. As always, I forgot to open the YouTube video, so I will do that right now. And then I can see your comments. Make sure to comment, interact. That's why I do it live. Stay up till midnight to talk to you guys. Hopefully everyone is doing well today. I had a little bit of a nap today, but I've been sick all week, so I don't know how my voice sounds, but should be better in another couple days, hopefully, on the recovery path. NAC long. You should look up NAC long if you don't know about it. A little fun fact for health reasons. Okay, I'm going to shrink myself. We're going to jump into the news. By the way, you guys like my new sleeveless shirt? Lululemon shirt. It's let me tell you, it's pretty nice. It's worth it. Hello, Gills. Hello, Jim. Hello, Fuzzy. I'm going to shrink myself, and we're going to get into the show. Hello, Steve-O. Shrinking in the corner with the sleeveless shirt on. Lululemon. I like that Lululemon doesn't have like a label. It's great. I don't feel like a walking advertisement. There's like a really tiny one somewhere. Okay, let me get rid of the background screen. All right. Let's get into everything that's going on. So Forex Factory, let's look at the news. What happened today? I think we had a manufacturing survey. No. We're not even in the right dates. What is going on here? It's February 8th here. We had unemployment claims. Basically came in line. A little bit below. Not really a big move. The market didn't really change too much. What's up with alkaline water? Hello, Alex. Hello, DMAC. Welcome. So nothing big on the news front. Anything tomorrow? Nope, nothing. I don't see that much. Let's look at, look at this. Sentiment survey is missing. What is going on here? We always look at sentiment survey, right? That's one of the things I like to start with before then I jump into analysis on the market. Why isn't it loading? Let's do this quickly. Try to get through this quick for you guys. A lot to talk about. While that's loading, let's look at the repurchase agreements. You guys know that I always like to look at this every week. RRP, is it still continuing lower? Are we still getting liquidity into the system via the RRP, or have they stopped? But it looks like it's still getting drained down. Beginning of February, we were at about 550. In the beginning of January, we were at about 700. So around 150 drawdown. But if I look at even just like January 8th, no, it's like 690. So about 140 drawdown over 1 month, which gives us another 3 months from where we are now before this is fully drained. I'm very curious to see what will happen once this is fully drained. That's why I just check on it every week. I mean, we could probably go and just check it. I could probably do it once a month and it'd be fine. Maybe I'll switch to that. I'm disappointed that this isn't loading. It looks like it's out of service or something. So can't check on that right now. I haven't something I want to look at with the fear and greed that we're going to touch base on later with Bitcoin. But for now, I think we just jump into looking at the market to see what's going on here. Let's go to a weekly chart on the NASDAQ and the S&P. So as you can see, and I talked about this last week, how we broke out and it's just up only at this point. Like my original thought was that we would reverse at this trend line. It didn't happen. After that, since then it's just up only. That's it. There's nothing stopping this market. I mean, we have the BFRN, right? 5,000 that we're at, but RSI is just up and away. Shorting this is very risky at this point. but it's yeah, you need this like 3-day chart. I want to see this 3-day chart break down. Until this breaks down, I don't think shorting is a smart move. I also don't think longing up here is a smart move. But the momentum indicators show that, it's up only at this point. There's nothing standing in the way of this market. If we go to a daily chart, the daily is a little bit more interesting because you can see how we have this building divergence, right? It's very obvious that the market is making higher highs, but RSI is making lower highs. That creates your divergence, which inherently is bearish. The question is, where do we stop? Where is our stopping point? And if we look at something interesting right here, if we look at this, right? If this is the daily chart and we flip this around and this is our W, that's the top of the W and that's the bottom of the W, and this is 2.618, then, we could be a little bit more liberal and it's there. And our stopping point is 5,100, or we could be more conservative and the stopping point's around 5,030. Either way, it's some point above 5,000. That's kind of that's where chaos is telling us the market may finally stop going higher. So that's a potential that you could look for. If in an extreme scenario, we could say that this is an ABCD, right? So there to there, right? And then you're going all the way up to 5,300 is another possible scenario to keep in mind. But either way, as long as that 3-day chart is still in basically just straight up, I think shorting this market is a bit dangerous. But I also think longing is dangerous too. We're not down here at 4,000 anymore. We're at 5,000 all-time highs. And I think the upside is sort of limited, mostly because of this building divergence here that we're seeing. And everything's overbought. I mean, yeah, the market can stay overbought longer than you can stay solvent, but that doesn't mean that at some point it has to have a pullback. I mean, this has been a significant rally. More so significant if we look at individual stocks like Meta, for example. It's just absurd. I think you guys know that already. I don't unfortunately have any clear trades here. I mean, if you look at a 4-hour chart, it just seems like it's consolidating before kind of the next up move. Maybe you get a bit of a pullback. I mean, we can go to like a 1 hour, right? You might get a drop on this 1 hour, but because this weekly and 3-day looks so bullish, if you're trading on a daily basis, I think you are better served by looking for long setups rather than looking for short setups. So that would be my recommendation if you're like a day trader. Look at the trend. The trend is to the upside. Hunt for long setups, and you'll probably have a much higher success ratio than if you are constantly hunting for short setups or trying to trade both sides. So that's my recommendation for S&P. I don't really have price targets or trades that I would recommend. Trying to think. Let me see. Can we find something here? Where can you go long to hit that 530 and 5100 targets that I talked about? Sorry, guys. A little bit sleepy. Always sleepy at this time. 4 hour. If you get a pullback on the 4 hour to the 50 EMA, which is what this pink line is, I think it's a good area where you can try to consider hunting longs and then shoot for those targets that we talked about around 530 and 5100. Potential trade scenario. That's the only one I really see here, to be perfectly honest. Let's look at something I just forgot about, just remembered. I want to look at OPEX, options expiry. Options, maximum pain. Omar, I can answer that in the after party. So save that one for the after party. All right, let's look at expiry tomorrow, Friday. Wow, huge amount of calls at 5:15. Those are going to expire worthless. But Jesus, that's crazy. And then we've got 493, 495 for puts, 5,000 for calls. I mean, max pain is basically right here at 5,000. I would even say 498 probably is max pain. So don't be surprised if the market does nothing today and then even pulls back a bit and then holds there until Monday. I mean, generally Fridays are generally not big moving days. They can be, but most of the time they're not, because option trader or market makers, which issue most of the options, want to hold the price at a certain level to cause that maximum amount of pain to retail traders, who are the ones who mainly buy the options, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's my feedback on the S&P. We can look at the NASDAQ really quick. Lately, I've been following the NASDAQ. I mean, it's the same, up only, right? It's just like straight up. Kind of looks pretty similar. Doesn't look like it's going to have any pullbacks anytime soon. I mean, I'm looking at even this like 15-minute chart. Like, can we roll over? And we are struggling up here, and maybe you get a slight pullback. But on these higher time frames, I mean, it's really bullish. It's the same as the S&P, where you've got kind of this bit of divergence coming in, but you don't have a clear breakdown. Like this weekly, for example, is up only 100%. I mean, there's nothing, I don't see anything standing in the way of this market here. And you could even do like another, this is like a more conservative ABCD. And it's kind of like that. And then it points just a little bit higher to like 18,200, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm looking for the, actually, you know, we have a nice W right here, weekly W. I'd be curious to see where chaos levels point to on this one. Okay. So it makes sense if 1.618 lines up here, 2.618 is here, and then 4.669 is right here. Huh. So we're basically right at the completion of this. Let me see if we can expand it just a little bit, and I would bring this in. This is how I would originally have drawn this. Yeah, so we're basically pushing through. We're pushing through that 4.669 level. This was your W that got confirmed. I mean, the biggest I can make this is at the top of this wick and the bottom of this wick. That creates our 1.618 initial resistance. 2.618 is another seeming resistance zone. This 3.59 lines up decently, and then we get our 4.669, which is right here. We're just a little bit above that. So it's possible that if this is correct, that this is a topping zone and the ABCD is nearby. So you're kind of in that topping zone on a weekly chart. And you do have a 7 coming in on the 3-day. On the daily, you have this divergence building. Let's go to like a little bit lower time frames. Nothing too clear here. Let's see. Yeah, nothing really on these lower time frames that would tell me that we're heading lower. It just seems like up only for now. But interesting to see that 4.669 level. So that's NASDAQ. What's going on with the dollar? Dollar is important to pay attention to, of course. Dollar has been, actually all of the indexes have been a bit wonky, where it's difficult to read them. And RSI, for example, obviously my main, sorry guys, I'm not thinking perfectly straight right now. RSI, which is my main, what is the name for it? What is the name? Momentum. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word momentum. My main momentum indicator has been acting wonky lately, which if you follow the breadth on our site, the breadth is based on a lot of momentum indicators and has also been acting a little bit wonky because the markets are behaving in a fashion that, at least for the past couple of years, they have not behaved this way, where the momentum indicators are kind of just getting embedded at the top or pulling back, but price is not pulling back. Momentum indicator is kind of like going like this, pulling back, but price stays the same, and then it resets and just goes higher. And that's something we've been seeing with the S&P and stuff like if you look at the daily chart right on the S&P, RSI never went below the VIP level line. I mean, the market just keeps going higher, and RSI is staying embedded above the 50 area. Generally, it should have some pullbacks, but it was just consolidation before moving higher. And that's not something that it's something we see sometimes, but it's not often that it moves this significantly. Okay, so let's go back to the US dollar. So US dollar looks good for a breakout here, but it's running into major resistance. And on a 3-day, we have a 9 that came in, which you can see has called tops multiple times in the past. So this is something which would make me cautious about being super bearish on things like gold. If the US dollar is basically topping, I mean, this was the only time it didn't work. It worked here, 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 worked here, worked here, or well, it's here now. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It kind of worked here. Let's not count it. Let's say this one didn't work. 11 times that it worked and 2 times that it didn't. So 9 out of 11 times it worked. We could round down and say 9 out of 10. That's 90%. So maybe 9 out of 11 is like 80 something percent. So 80% of the time, this has called a bit of a top. So something to be aware of with the US dollar and this TD9 coming in. That's a warning sign. And you've got divergence a bit. Well, not really. Actually, you don't. But it doesn't look great. That's for sure. Speaking of dollar, we can't talk about the dollar without looking at gold. So what's going on with gold? Gold is still in my uptrending parallel channel. And it's just bouncing along this midpoint. And the question is, like, when is it going to break out? Well, probably when the US dollar breaks down, if it does. And right now, gold is just completely stagnant. Like, when I see RSI on a daily chart, this is pretty big deal. When it's on a daily chart and it's just sitting at that midpoint line. Sorry, guys. Like I said, a little bit sick. So coughing sometimes. When you see RSI at a midpoint line like this, it means that price is essentially flatlined. There's not going to be any movement until you got to break out one way or the other, which I know doesn't help. But when I see something like this, I actually don't want to trade it. And if I trade it in a range. So I would treat this as a range, and I would use just fibs to trade it only. I would look at, like, okay, what was the previous range here? So if this was the top and this was the bottom, then I would say, okay, I'm going to take trades only when we get up to this 0.786 and 886. And those would be my shorts. And same thing on the other side if I flip this around, right? So wait 1 second. So then if I wanted to trade this, I would take longs when we come down to 786 and 886. And then I would just reverse it and take profit on the other side. See how multiple times it came into this area, you would have gotten into perfect buys, and then you would have had perfect sells on the other side. Don't need to use the momentum indicator. Just look at price action and fibs. That's it. It's that simple. It works like every time. You use RSI to show you that the price is not going to move significantly because the momentum indicator is stuck in the middle in a ranging area. And that's how you know the market's ranging. I mean, at any point it can break out one side or the other, right? And then you get stopped out. But if you can get 3 or 4 successful trades off before it breaks out, then that's a winning strategy, at least in my book. Okay, so gold, like I said, just stuck in a range. I wish I could tell which direction it's going to go in. Based on what I'm seeing from the dollar, it looks like it could move higher. And it might just be consolidating here. Like on the weekly, it looks like it's been consolidating before it makes the next move up. And the top of this parallel channel is basically somewhere around right up here. If we say we blast off in March, we're around 2,250, 2,200, 2,300. again, that's assuming that the dollar actually breaks down. But if it breaks to the upside, then gold probably will head lower, and we have our support down here at 1890. I can go to a daily. Daily, you do have your 200-day at 1970. That's going to be significant resistance. And then the bottom of the parallel channel at 1900. So those are your, actually 1900 basically here. Those are your areas, but I would base it off what the US dollar is doing. And right now, the US dollar looks like it's trying to break down. But on a daily chart, it's still in an uptrend. I'm only thinking that there's going to be a breakdown and a pullback, mainly because of what I'm seeing on the lower time frames, like 4 hour, and what I'm seeing on this 3-day chart with the TD9, which I talked about earlier. Hopefully it makes sense. Any questions about what I'm talking about, guys? You guys are really quiet today. Comments, refutal, any refutes, disagreements? Maybe I'm not seeing your comments because my page is not refreshing for some reason. I think that might be the problem. Nope. You guys are commenting. Okay, Alex. All good and agreed. Okay, nice. Let's jump into, is there any other stocks I want to talk about? How much time we got? Let me see. How long have I been talking? 21 minutes already. Wow. I didn't know I was talking that long. I have to speed up my talking. All right, let's go to Bitcoin. You guys care about that the most. Let's look at the total. Total weekly is embedded, right? Totally overbought. It's just embedded in an uptrend. We've been consolidating for multiple weeks. If we do break out, right, you have basically an ABCD, a conservative ABCD, something like this, where total would go up to 2.1, which is it would probably go right above this previous high area. It looks like it's just consolidating and now trying to move higher. On a 3-day chart, you can see if you do the following, like that, that this is also trying to break out. Look at this breakout happening right here. Stochastic is reversing. Regular RSI is breaking out. Price looks bullish. I mean, on a daily chart especially. Look here. So on this part of the daily chart, we're running into resistance. But if we keep pushing higher, that's a breakout. Here is basically a breakout right here. Now you can see this is quite a significant bullish move, and if it keeps pushing, I mean, there's no reason why we wouldn't go up to this next zone. I actually need to reverse this. Okay, so 0.618 is there and 0.786 is there. So those are your kind of, I could see it doing this, ping-ponging and pushing up here and doing this for final breakdown. That's my like squiggly line theory based on the extremely bullish case that I'm seeing develop. Even though our breadth indicator has actually been short, but as I said, the breadth has been all over the place. For anybody that's a breadth subscriber, I know it's been a rough 2 months. I'm also taking the trades. We have over 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years of data now, I think. And this has been the worst 2 months in its 2.5 year history. So, you know, you have to stick with it. And I posted a response in the Pro channel regarding my strategy. And I think it makes sense to follow that kind of strategy. But I thought I should address it since I've talked about the breadth a lot in here. The breadth is, especially with crypto, is not doing as well as before. And I think it's because of this strange up-only market state that we're kind of in now, where actually the breadth has never been tested on an up-only market state. It's only been tested in a ranging market state and a ranging market state and a down market state. So interesting to see how it's playing out in a kind of up-only style market, where it's maybe shorting sometimes when it shouldn't, or at least we perceive it as it shouldn't, but it just does. Okay, so that's total. Let's look at Bitcoin. I think that'll be a little bit more relevant to most of you. Weekly chart. All right. So Bitcoin up only still, right, in this uptrend. We had the pause because we hit the 9 on the weekly. Now we're reversing. We're heading higher. We're stuck in this green zone on RSI. We're overbought. If we go to a 3-day chart, 3-day chart, you can see this is just barely starting to break out. If we go to a little bit lower, it's kind of the same as total, right? So you've got that, and then you've got this one like this, and this one is breaking out. Stochastic RSI is already super bullish, embedded, and we're pushing through the midpoint of this uptrending channel. The topping point for this, if we look out just like a week, is around the 51,700 area, which is, again, we're showing the entire range. So we played in the 61.8 area, and now the market wants to move up to that next box, which is the 786 area, which would be 51,000 area approximately. I don't see why that couldn't happen at this point. It's looking very bullish. Is there a trade though here? Is there something, if you're not long currently, that you can get into? I mean, it's been up only for the last 24 hours pretty much. Now is when you start to kind of look for a pullback, and I would wait for some kind of pullback down into at least the 10 SMA area. This blue one is the, let me double check, but the blue one is 10 EMA, 21 is a 21 EMA. So pull back into that 21 EMA area, and then you've got the 50 EMA below it on the 4-hour time frame. Look for a pullback there to then consider long opportunities. That's what I would recommend to get into a long position on Bitcoin. You gotta wait for that pullback. You 100% can't chase up here. That would be completely irresponsible. And then like if we, let me see something here, fib retracement. If we look at this as a range, so a lot of times we can use chaos and look at ranges. It doesn't have to specifically be a W. The range would point to 49,200. So if we continue with the current move, we should finish somewhere up here with that move, and then go back to consolidating and then moving higher after a period of consolidation, or we just straight roll over. We got to see when it happens. Those are kind of your scenarios. I mean, unless something disastrous happens with the stock market that pulls Bitcoin down, but I don't see that right now. It's kind of just stagnating. Perfect opportunity for Bitcoin to just take off and head higher. So that's Bitcoin. No real price targets today, except for kind of what I gave you, but I don't have any clear lower time frame ones. I think this is a very difficult market to trade, and if you have longs already, I would just recommend holding them. And if you see any risk of downside, rather than selling those holdings, just, you know, hedge by, if you can, selling some types of options. I'm not exactly sure where you might be able to do that, but that's generally how you do it in the stock market, right? You buy stocks and then you sell the options calls to buy those stocks, and you collect the premium. And if the stock does nothing or it pulls back, you make a bunch of money on the premium. Or if the stock heads higher, you get everything called away from you, but you still made money on the price rise before they got called away. Assuming that a lot of the premium was drawn down. So that's the general strategy I would follow. Do I want to talk about any crypto before I Alex, that's funny. Let me see. Do I want to talk about anything else before I jump? It's about 30 minutes. So I want to get into some specific crypto names, some specific stock names that I'm looking at, and we only do that in the after party. So hopefully you guys are members. If you're not a member, consider signing up for the free trial, where myself and Brian, a lot more than me, go through any and all questions you might have and any stocks or crypto coins you want to look at for like 30 minutes to an hour. every day. Great value. Also, you get access to us in Discord. You can ask any questions there too. Anyway, if you're watching the public show, hopefully you enjoyed. And if I don't see you on the private show, which I better see all of you, I want to see all of you there asking me questions. I like to talk about stocks that you guys want to talk about, look at coins that you guys want to look at, not look at things that I think are valuable. I like to do it live so I can interact with you guys. Anyway, let's call it for the public show, and hopefully I will see you all over in the private one. All right, bye guys.